You're gonna love him. Put your hands together for Rory Dunn!
I work in a kitchen, and being a cook is a lot like having sex, actually. You know, no one enjoys cleanup or prep. It can get real messy real fast, and as my ex-girlfriend can tell you, if you spend all day doing it for other people, you don't feel like doing it when you get home.
Regina has such a small community of comedians that there's only about, I'd say, 20 of us that perform regularly.
I get depressed because I'm at a point where only the other comedians are my friends, and if I don't go to a show, I have no one to hang out with. And so I'd say we're really tight.
So my sister's having a baby now, and my mom's coming at me, and she's like, Joel, you gotta be responsible, you gotta go in there, you gotta like help change some diapers, and it's like, well, fuck you guys. You didn't consult me when you decided you're gonna have a child. I didn't choose to be an uncle. You didn't wake me up and ask me if it was okay if you had sex on the night at Grandpa's funeral. That's the funniest part of my set these days, and it's only because it's 100% true. I did the math.
In Vancouver, it's a little more insular, and everybody kind of keeps to themselves. I mean, there's certain cliques and stuff like that, but with the group here, everybody's really tight. I mean, for the most part, everybody's pretty friendly with each other. We rip on each other, we have a good time, we hang out.
And you're like, say, fourth person in line, and you get to the front, and you don't know what movie you're seeing by the time you get to the front? Drawn and quartered. Like, seriously, try these people up, fucking drag some horses out and rip their body apart, because seriously, they're holding back the human species.
Heard about Comedy Grind over at Gavo's, shameless plug, it's great. Every single Saturday night, 9 o'clock, come on by, it's fantastic.
Just to let you guys know, I'm high as a motherfucker tonight, you're welcome. I'm kidding. You can't get high off life. You also can't buy life off a guy you sort of know and can kind of trust, and I'm pretty sure he'll come back out of the house in 10 minutes.
I went there and, put the toes in the water, checked out a show, and decided I was better than everyone else that did the show, so there's no reason why I should not do the show.
I started comedy a little over a year ago. I've always been a fan of stand-up. Ever since I was a kid, I always told people growing up that I was going to be a stand-up comedian before I knew that you couldn't.
You know, my wedding cost over $20,000, and I'm talking to her, I'm like, can you believe I lost $20,000 on one day? She's like, Adam, don't worry, because you didn't actually lose $20,000. I was like, really? Because I had $20,000, and now I don't. But keep talking. I'm interested in what you have to say, because I'm probably going to use it on stage later. No, she goes, no, you didn't actually lose $20,000 because you had $20,000 saved. It only counts as losing $20,000 when you have to go into debt to get it. And I was like, wow, this is how she thinks money works. That'd have been good to know.
I wouldn't really call it a career, per se. It's always been set up to be kind of just a fun thing to do. You know, it's kind of just a hobby. It's like pickup hockey, but with jokes.
It's getting to the point now where my nightlife usually consists of going to Shoppers Drug Mart at about 11 o'clock and just laughing at people that are clearly going in there to buy a cream for their hoop. They have an itchy asshole. Thanks, that joke right here, that's titled Hoop Creams, like the movie.
When I first started, I thought this would be so rad if this was my job. But going to a couple other cities and doing without your friends, and I moved for a while and got really rusty. And also met some old comedians who were just jaded.
I recently quit smoking. Anyone just actually quit smoking? Okay, one person is lying to their spouse. Myself, I quit smoking cigarettes, right? I was doing it for like 20 years. I'm so proud of myself, right? It's a great thing. I'm down to like a carton of cigars and an ounce of weed a week. It's so much better for me.
All of us essentially have, like Dane was saying, like 3, 4, 5 jobs. And I think between the people at this table, we probably have a combined total of about 35 years of post-secondary education. And yeah, we're completely overqualified to do anything that we're doing, right?
Women be shopping, what? Yes, sir. Apparently blindfolded with those pants, though. My God, turn those down. Those are red. Holy smokes. Those pants are crazy. They're like 50 Shades of, ow, my fucking eyes. Ouch.
Pass the Hat is a monthly comedy show here at the club. It's currently run by Dane Emery.
It's the time of the show where we pass a hat or a do-rag in this situation. It's cool. So yeah, I don't want to be awkward, but you know, if you feel like paying something for this, by all means, you can. If not, that's cool too.
All we do is we just make sure that we get the room ready and the lights are hot, and that everybody else can tell their jokes. And it's really fun to do. It's really fun to see everybody kind of have fun and develop, and not be motivated by like commercial means. Because let's be honest, it's Regina, Saskatchewan. No one's going to be successful if they stay here.
The bad thing about Regina is so many people who live here think there's absolutely nothing to do. And for the most part, that's true. But then they get in the mindset of, why bother looking for things to do?
I started 3 years ago, and the way I started was I had the worst experience that anybody could possibly have. And I failed so badly that I did not want to let that be the only time I did a set.
Speaking of white people, you ever get people who talk about, like, who watch, like, the show The Wire? Anybody? There's The Wire on HBO. Yeah. That's the shit, right? And there's also a show called Breaking Bad. Anybody Breaking Bad? Anyone? Yeah. Malcolm's dad doing his meth thing. Fuck. I have not watched either of these shows. I've never watched these shows because I always get recommendations on both of these shows, like, oh, this is exactly what it's like in the streets, Dane Emery. This is what it's like. And I get these recommendations from like the most like white bread suburban dudes possible. I don't know if this has happened to you guys, but it's like this one guy's like, this is what it's like in Baltimore, okay? My name is Dennis, and I think that Baltimore is a lot like what HBO told me it was like. It's like, no, man. And same with Breaking Bad. Like, if I want to know what meth production is like, I'm going to ask my cousin Dean in Melville, right?
I fail as frequently as I did before, but people don't notice it as much, so it's good.
I know a lot of people, they tell me they want to do stand-up, but I don't think they understand the work that a lot of people put into it.
You're a stand-up comic until you quit doing it.
If you're constantly looking to write jokes and, like we said earlier, like work on those jokes that you've already written and performing them semi-regularly, then I think that kind of makes you a stand-up comic.
If you can be consistently good, that's better than being like awesome once a year.
I'm kind of a dick when it comes to this, but I think it's when it's your job.
If you're a musician and you play guitar, you're still a musician if you don't make money.
Oh, but
if
nothing's worse than the guy who's a musician and has like the demo tape that sucks.
The first time you get paid, you become a stand-up comedian, because that means tonight I actually became one. This is the first time I've ever been paid.
It's kind of one of those things where you're quietly accepted within the group. Like, we can go through and say who we think are comics and who we don't think they are. I mean, some people, it's the same thing with like when we played football. There's guys that love to wear the jacket and there's guys that actually want to play the game.
I don't get to go home to visit my family very much. I'm not actually from Regina. And that kind of makes me sad, because me and my family were actually very close. We used to have little nicknames for one another when I was growing up, like bitch and disappointment.
Apparently, it takes 6 gallons of caffeine. It will actually like kill you. You can actually overdose on caffeine, which is crazy. That's like, I think, you know, like 12 pots of coffee, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. That's like 6 Monster Energy drinks. No, what's weird? Only 2 Monster Energy drinks make you like Linkin Park. Didn't know that. 4 of them, you're gonna know how to do HTML coding. Get up to 6, guess what? Big Bang Theory is funny to you.
I do write every single day. I write a minimum of half an hour to an hour of every day. I try to get between 10 and 20 jokes, of which I only use maybe 1.
Like 10% of things you write, you're gonna use,
yeah,
and then only 1% of that is actually good.
There's nothing I'm gonna say that hasn't been said by someone else somewhere else at another time in a different cadence. It's just,
you do it once and it's terrible. Like, the big difference between someone that wants to do comedy and someone that doesn't want to is the difference of them throwing that in the garbage or then throwing that in the box, and then all of a sudden it's like pass the hat night and you're like, oh my god, I gotta do 20 minutes, where the hell's the box?
I am very rigid with my comedy, actually. I have everything timed out, absolutely everything.
I started baking recently. My baking is good, but it's missing that one ingredient that only mothers have. And my baking is pretty good, but it's not as good as my mother's because it's missing that one ingredient only mothers have. I like my baking and it's almost like my mother's, but it's missing that one ingredient that only moms have. My baking is pretty good, but lacks that one ingredient that only mothers have. I've recently started baking, and I'm not bad at baking. I'm actually pretty good, but it's always not as good as my mother's. There's that one ingredient that only mothers have in their baking: prescription antidepressants.
For specific things, I have multiple variations of them, and just what comes to me naturally is basically what I go for.
I'm looking forward to my Halloween costume. I'm gonna go as the Green Goblin and just throw pumpkins at people all night. I'm looking forward to my costume because I'm just gonna dress as an alien and stand really close to people and be a personal space invader. I'm looking forward to my costume. I'm gonna be a horny bee. It's the same thing as a honeybee, but the stinger's in the front. I'm in between costumes. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna go with. I'm either gonna dress as an alien and stand really close to people and be a personal space invader. Or I'll just dress regularly and continue to be the invisible man to women.
I doubt myself completely all the time.
You get this immediate rush to like destroy what you just built. Seriously, like 2 minutes before you're like, you get this like lucid moment of clarity and you're like, I've failed in everything I've done. I need to stop it.
First start doing it and you get a couple of laughs enough to like you keep going a little bit more. And then you get to a point where you've done it, you do 2 or 3 good shows in a row. It's like, yeah, I'm Eddie Murphy, man. I'm gonna film Delirious. I'm gonna be so huge.
Yeah.
And then you have like a horrible set, and then about a year later you realize all of your material sucks.
Doing stand-up comedy is like having sex. It doesn't matter if it was good or bad. I just got off, right?
I realized this summer that if sex were an Olympic sport, I'd never get a medal. I always come last.
Robin Williams was like, they asked him like, do you think stand-up comedy can change people's minds? And he's like, you know, I used to. For years and years, I honestly thought that. But, you know, we were given this gift of George W. Bush, and comics were making fun of him brutally for 4 years, and he got reelected.
Yeah.
So he goes, maybe we can't.
Democrats are lazy, though.
That's a good point.
Huh, you just shattered my whole world.
Thank you, you guys have been great. Let's do it together.
Rory Gunn, everybody, Rory Gunn.
I actually learned quite a bit from my parents, but probably the major lesson I learned from my parents is that love may not exist, but Stockholm Syndrome does.